Mm,
in your class?
Usually it's because Sushil sir's audio is too high.
yeah, one of the thing is my audio sound is also big, and then the thing is the speaker's transmission time is different. I'm using speaker. Are you also using speaker?
No, sir.
No, sir, it's because we can hear Sanvi's voice as well as like your speaker is on, so we can hear again from your mic.
Side, yes.
Yeah, so that's one of the thing itself that I will decrease the sound. Okay, can you speak once?
Hello, Sushil sir. How are you?
But if it becomes too small, then I cannot hear you. Like, although my speaker is is down than the mic, so I need to mute myself if you see it's echoing too much. So it echoes because I am normally using the speaker. I don't like keeping the headphone too much. But if it's distracting totally that it is too much for you, then only I have to use the headphone. Although I don't like using it. I know my surrounding also might be disturbed because of the speaker sound, but the thing is,
I
I
don't think so. It echoes now.
right now it's not echoing so much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just decrease the speaker sound. So I decrease the speaker sound, but I can hear. That means maybe around 75 I should keep in mind.
Sir, you can hear us clearly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, so you can see what is our topic today also on the screen. So we might not be able to finish on time if we take more time, because although I started on time for grade 8 Explorer, I had to go by 3-4 minutes extra. Okay, I think I started not exactly on time, but I started 4 minutes late itself because my class was itself after our research class in morning also, and the same time I got. Okay, is that clear? So he left the class around the same timing. So let's start it now. It's already 1:19. Okay. So can you tell me, like, what do you understand by sustainable development? So first of all of you go to page number 86. Let me close my previous things here. Okay. Please refer to page number 86 also so that you know what we are doing also, but try not to read from the book directly. Okay. I'm just making sure you open that page so that you know from which lesson what we were discussing. And especially I'm telling from the perspective of weak students also. Okay, later on they'll get lost so much that they won't even know from which lesson what was discussed. Okay, at least if they see right now, they will know and remember those terms and what is being used over there. Okay, what is sustainable development? Just to check your prior knowledge. We can use any of the ways that we used before any activities, okay, to tell about this, but today we will not take so much time because objective is to finish this lesson. Okay, what do you understand by sustainable development?
The development that actually meets the people need.
Okay, that is the development that actually meets the people's need. Okay, so it meets the need when we cut down all the forest. Okay, let's say, is that sustainable development?
No, it isn't. Peaceful in a peaceful way.
In a peaceful way. Okay, we go peacefully and cut down the trees.
No, sir.
No,
No, sir,
so,
but those are and all makes sounds right.
so what type of thing? Yeah, like that's what I was trying to ask you. So it has to be clear. Okay, whatever definition we make, whatever any organization makes, it has to be very clear, right? So that there is no double meaning coming from anything or more meanings coming, right?
Sir, that doesn't compromise of future generation, ability of future generation.
Okay. So it means that it has to meet the present need also, and at the same time, it should not affect the future needs, right? So it doesn't. So the future people do not have to compromise, right? You already know what is compromise, yes or no? It's a win or lose situation in which one party loses, or sometimes even both loses at times. Okay, now can you all turn on your camera because I cannot see few of you. So I need to check that once again. Because I cannot just speed up. I do need to check the camera setup also. Okay, meanwhile others are coming. For a few minutes the course will be very slow. Just a few minutes. Then we'll speed up. Okay, what more can you give examples about sustainable development? Those who are here already, like, let's get engaged, okay, immediately to start warming up than waiting for too many. So what can you give examples of sustainable development? Like, what are the examples? Because our final outcome is itself to see what are the examples. One of the way to see the impact itself is like, what was your level before we taught this, right? And after, what is the outcome, so that to see the impact, okay, and maybe in a long term at times. So just trying to check what do you know about this and what difference does it really make at the end. Maybe it will not make today, but maybe within a month it might make at times, because some of you might take time to understand that. Because within the first class itself, if we try to finish, because we will be speeding at the same time. So can you give examples what you can tell about like sustainable development examples?
Sir, using solar energy instead of fossil fuels.
Okay, using solar energy instead of fossil fuel is a sustainable development. Why is it?
Sir, because fossil fuel harm the environment and solar energy does not.
Solar energy doesn't. Okay, that's so.
So also fossil fuels are limited and solar energy is.
Once again, can you
So
repeat?
fossil fuels
August?
are like non-renewable and solar energy is renewable.
Okay, so fossil fuels are not renewable and solar energy are renewable. Okay, yes, I'm checking the prior knowledge also. Okay, so I will know at what level the students are before I begin my mini lecture. So because at times I'm not a tape recorder coming and just saying that. Okay, if you keep me for next lesson, the same topic, you will see the teacher is saying some other things little different in a different way. Okay, I don't want to say completely different. Okay, but because it has to be similar, okay, more or less, but you will see there's a little difference because I've not recorded myself the whole examples, okay, but the content what is shown on the screen keeps us to the track so that both the classes are at least going parallel. Okay, and some more examples.
Using wind energy and converting into electricity so we can use it
So that
causes like in offices, buildings, industries, etc.
so that's also sustainable. So why is that sustainable?
Because we are not harming anything, and we are using natural resources that doesn't harm anyone or anything.
Okay, good. So you have been so far thinking from the perspective of environment, right? So if we focus on only environment, then that is sustainable, is it? So if it's environment friendly, then that is sustainable. So do you mean that?
I don't think so.
What other things do you think to make it sustainable? What more do you need? So that's what we are trying to discuss.
Justice, maybe.
Justice. What I'll trying to talk about climate justice or all these things, or what type of justice?
In a sense, like favor good, I guess.
Which good?
Favor good, like good person, you know what I'm saying.
Okay. So we just had a quick just warm up to keep ourselves engaged. Okay, one of the ways to start our class. And I wanted to make sure you're engaged from the beginning itself, not to waste so much time waiting for everyone. Okay, and those who came later, I told you like after 5 minutes, we have to mark absent as a consequence. We have been getting sometimes few feedbacks telling people need to get punishment. Okay, is that clear? But however, rather than saying the word directly punishment, I'm just telling you you'll be getting as a consequence anything. Is that clear? The way of it's a different way, but I can understand. Okay, so the consequence first itself is like you will be marked absent. But although so far you'll be allowed in the class, but if it's repeated too much, but the communication will also go to your parents saying you have been marked absent because you have 5 minutes left, so that it doesn't repeat and everyone is aware. Okay, so sustainable development. So now let's start up. So I was just keeping you engaged plus checking the attendance. Okay, and you already saw in the Viber, I've already written the attendance. Okay, so sustainable development, like as we told at first itself, that's one of the thing. So before understanding sustainable development, so that's our main objective. We have already studied about what is development. From beginning itself, like we have been talking about development in social studies. In grade 7 also, grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, you'll see these terms of development. Especially you saw that itself in grade 8. Maybe in grade 7, it was based on origin and development of society. This type of things were there to some extent. So development is not just economic development. That's what we have been telling. Okay, just because there's development in economy doesn't mean that the country is developed. We give examples of China also to an extent, but you know that the economic development is already very good. Within the past 35 years, they have improved a lot because like they have so many mass production industries in which they are producing in mass. Listen, and when it's mass production, then they can produce that at low cost and compete into the global market. The products are not, all of them are useless. They are good, they are working well. Okay, so you can see how much they have already developed within this 35 years, from maybe around 1980s itself, right? 1970, that's when they started. So although that economic development is also needed in development, we need to think about that, because there has to be like here it has to be in case of like development is itself accumulation, means it's a total, it's a gross, right? It's a total of human capital and it's effective investment in the progress of an economy. So that's a way of also defining development. Since the past, normally in the past, development was simply considered as economic development. Okay, but in this case of development, it has to be seen from both quantitative and qualitative aspect. So quantitative is economy, okay, economic development, and whereas qualitative you can see in terms of like quality of life of human beings, right? Well, how is the quality of life, right? How is the social development? How are the environmental development? In different other sectors also we have to see. So we'll go more into that detail after some time also. Right now, I think you can just understand these are the terms that's going to come in: quality plus quantitative. Whenever you do any research, you research sometimes in terms of quantitative, sometimes in terms of qualitative. So the development perspective, okay, from the history, you can just see this, how it came all the way to sustainable development. So this is just wait, okay. Are you able to see my pointer? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So sustainable development, you can see at the bottom, this is where we are trying to reach. Okay, so we are just trying to see the history, more or less, okay, from one aspect, not fully, but from one aspect, how it was coming from the past in terms of development. So first, they were just thinking about the economic development and cultural progress around 1920s to 1940s, and slowly from 1940s to 1960, more into economic progress, where industrialization was used as a vehicle of economic development, where they would be making industries so that there would be economic development. So that's one of the way which I've been also telling. One of the ways itself to make industries so that there is economic development. Like that's one of the productive sector. Like when they say in case of productive sector, most of them like who come in finance minister or anything, they will be talking about this industrial sector. Not you invest in real estate, that's not economic development for a country. Although the person will be getting a profit in that. But for the country, it's not a economic development. Okay, internally that is going to like really make a very good income as well. Okay, but that's not a productive sector for the economy. So economic development normally from industrial sector where you have import, so where you can export. So that's how you can have economic development. But in 1920s to 1940s, most of them were based on like exploitation of natural resources a lot, where they were all exploited and misused, and they were used more than the capacity that they would be able to renew. Like you have studied different types of resources based on perpetual resource, renewable and non-renewable. I'm just telling that, I'm not asking that again and again, just recalling. Okay, so in case of perpetual resources like solar, wind, they're always there, they're always coming, you can always utilize them. But fossil fuels, they are non-renewable. Once they're used up, it's very difficult to renew them, or it takes many million of years, which takes a long time. But at the same time, renewable, you can use that again and again. So you have to see and then work accordingly. So in around 1950s to 1970, so economic progress, right? There's a difference between growth and development. That's what we have been saying. All the economic growth doesn't mean they are all development. Okay. So economic progress, so those terms are different. If you go into detail, it looks similar, but later on that also is different. But for some time, you can use those terms relatively closer. But all growth doesn't mean that they're all development. And slowly 1970s, integrated area development, 1980s, participatory development based on participation, with people's participation we talked in first lesson. Yes or no? Do you remember? That was also, that's why I just put a stress into that also, because that's also one of the needing development, that people's participation has to be there. We have to increase people's participation, whether it be project or different places. If not, we might not be able to have the impact of whatever project has been implemented. And finally, in 1990s, there was, then it started concept of sustainable development. So in 1980s, you can see reversal of top-down approach. Means reversal means of top-down approach means it's the opposite of top-down. Now it is bottom-up. Is that clear? We don't want to go that into detail. Top-down means from top, the people start giving instruction. Okay, bottom-up means from bottom, the things are getting planned and it goes to the top. Is that clear? So in this participatory, when it goes from bottom up, then people participate because it is their plan, it is their project, then they will make sure it happens. If from the center someone assigns, then things might not happen. Okay, because bottom people might not understand what is that itself the person is trying to say, or sometimes whatever is at the center doesn't know what is the need of that place. The person is at the capital sitting in the middle and is trying to plan for far western where they have not even been there. Okay, then it might be a failure. So exactly, only the local people know what is the need for their area. So this type of development concept has been there from time to time, and that's what we have already done. And I just made connection with what we have done so far. And from 1990s, like it started with the concept of sustainable development, and that is what we're going to read now. So this is the more or less the history of development. So sustainable development. In this sustainable development, like there were different nations around the world who was trying to itself work towards development initiatives so that there is sustainability of the resources, the natural resource, so that there will be good natural resource management. Okay, so that the natural resources are used wisely, so that they are going to meet the present needs also, and they are going to be available for future needs also. So how to make it sustainable? Like that's one of the concept itself of sustainable development. So Stockholm Convention, in this convention, like this, whatever we have this convention that was held 30 years before, Okay, approx 30 you can also say itself. So right now 2020, yes or no? And 30 years before comes to be around itself 1990, wasn't it? So 30 years before, where they were trying to come and talk about how to respond to that environmental deterioration so that the environment is not damaged, so that the resources are utilized very well and none of them are affected in the ecosystem also. This should not be imbalance in the ecosystem also, whether it be in terms of biodiversity or in terms of various physical resources as well. Even ecosystem imbalance, okay, you know, the food chain, if anything gets affected then other things also get us affected, right? So that also has to be part of the biodiversity. So these things are also going to be there in case of sustainable development. So for this, one of the step is in case of like road to Rio. So for this, like from the beginning itself, there was the publication of Our Common Future. So that was done by UN World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987. So it's near to 1990s. Okay, that was a roundup of 1990s. Is that clear? So when you saw that before, it was just saying 1990. So this is just a roundup. Although we can see from 1987 itself. Okay, so from here it's trying to talk about the future, because sustainable development is itself trying to think about the future so that the resources are available in the future and it's not going to be a problem in the future. And another publication of Brundtland report trying to show the need for sustainable development in industrialized countries also and developing countries also. Why do they need sustainable development even though they are all industrial? Okay, so in this Brundtland commission, in this Brundtland report, that was itself done from that Brundtland commission, in which that is a Brundtland commission, and this was itself under the chairmanship of Norway's Prime Minister, okay, Harlem Brundtland. Based on his name, this has been named. Is that clear? So that is a Brundtland commission, where from that Brundtland commission, they had this Brundtland report. After that whole, they made a report, and that publication was trying to talk about the need for sustainable development. Why we need sustainable development. We cannot just think about the present, but we have to think about the future. Okay, where whatever we do, we have to think about the future and only do. Okay, not just for the immediate needs. So the same thing what we have discussed at first, sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So that was by Brundtland Commission, Our Common Future, 1987. Okay, so that's a report of Brundtland Commission. Now next, in this road to Rio, now next is Earth Summit. This is also one of the important contribution in case of sustainable development in the history of sustainable development. That's officially known as United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. So this was held in 1992 at Rio de Janeiro, where 170 states participated around the world, and they had a common outcome. Okay, whatever project that they do, whatever activity they're doing, they are going to make sure there are certain outcomes, right? So that they start implementing the project. Like whatever environment related project is there, whatever is the livelihood project, whatever is health and sanitation project, whatever comes under anything. Right, earlier they were focusing on Millennium Development Goals, but before Millennium Development Goals finished, they started with Sustainable Development Goals, because they came with the other concept, and that has itself around that has exactly 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which I showed you earlier. I think to some extent, what are they? Like talking about poverty, right? There will be poverty alleviation in terms of education for all. Okay, Sustainable Development Goals to different others like crime, saving life underwater. Like under that itself, I think we can see certain reduce and reuse campaign is relating with that. It has connection to that sustainable. If you connect, that's when the funding also comes from UN. Okay, if it's linked with the goals that UN has made. Okay, if not, they will not be also given. So this is under the environment itself. Not only environment, other aspects are also here. So So outcomes of this Earth Summit is they talked about the biodiversity. That's what we told. Yes or no? So in case of biodiversity, it's trying to show the differences. In case of biological aspect of like plants and animals, how they have all difference, like we talked about in earlier topic also about the different diversities. Nepal also is rich in biodiversity. Similarly, they talked about the biodiversity, how they can be conserved. And another is framework convention on climate change. What is climate change? This is the term which you need to know in social studies also, other also you need to know, but I'm just trying to make sure we're interacting also, okay? What is climate change? Can someone tell me? Framework convention on climate change they did. What is that climate change? Because it's a topic for grade 8 itself. For grade 8, grade 9, it keeps repeating.
Vast change in climate.
Okay, vast. What type of vast change? Like-
It's about to hit winter and it is supposed to be cold, but due to climate change, it's still hot, like it's in summer.
Okay, so I'm just trying to play like a devil's advocate, just trying to make you confused so that you don't get confused in the future. Like let's say today you saw the weather report and then you saw it was going to rain after 2 days, but it doesn't rain. Is that climate change? Is that a
Excuse me,
climate
sir?
change? In the weather report, you check that it is going to rain after 2 days, or it was supposed to rain, but instead of raining, there was a hot. It was very hot that day. That it was a sunny day. Is that a climate change?
No, sir, it isn't.
So then, what type of vast change? Because I want.
Sir, like in seasons, it can be in
Okay,
seasons.
so in terms of season, let's say during June, July, it was supposed. Let's say from May, it was supposed to rain. Monsoon was supposed to start, right? And July is the time when it gets the maximum rainfall according to record for many years. We can see that. Okay, just trying to say because I can just remember because of many experiments done by us in the past, right? But instead of in May, around May, June, right? Instead of raining, it doesn't rain on time. So can you tell that as climate change?
Yes, sir.
Normally, that's the time when it is supposed to start raining monsoon, right? But it doesn't rain at all. And that is happening for several years. So means that is itself trying to show a climate change. And that gets impacted. Like agriculture is impacted. They cannot grow on time. If they have to grow maize, then they cannot keep that on time. Yes or no? So that itself is going to affect in the production for the farmers also. And the livelihood is going to be affected. So you can see connection, like if you have to go for a livelihood project, you have to see so many factors, right? And how to do some climate change adaptation measures, okay? How to adapt to the climate change. Like if you cannot change the climate to normal, then you have to learn how to adapt as well. Yes or no? How to adapt so that it's going to be sustainable also in the future. So this climate change we're going to discuss also. It's not a big topic or difficult topic to understand, right? So here framework convention on climate change was also discussed because climate change is normally happening because of all these different industrialization process itself. Yes or no? And development, you have so many industries, and that industrial development sometimes can lead to problem in global warming, which is the cause of climate change also as well. Okay, so this was framework convention on climate change as well. Is that clear? We'll talk about climate change into detail later on as well. So far, did you understand why this topic is also under this sustainable development now? Climate change? Is it clear? But in detail, we'll go in this when we study geography later on. Is that clear?
Okay, sir.
Because right now our main objective is to understand sustainable development. Okay, and next one is principles of forest management. So in case of principles of forest management, like how to manage the forest, you study to some extent in OBT and what are those forest type of occupation, right? What is the objective of that studying forestry, people involved in those occupations as well. So you can see all of them are needed equally, but you have to see what is the demand if you want to succeed, because from your aspect, you have to see what is going to be the demand at that time. Okay, if there are too many students, then less people might get the opportunities. So Rio Declaration on Environment and Development was another outcome, and Agenda 21. So Agenda 21 we'll talk again later on what keeps on coming there. So from that, it was agreed that the protection of environment, social and economic development are really important for sustainable development based on Rio principle, that is Road to Rio. Okay, based on that, they saw that they have to protect the environment, they have to see the social aspect, they have to see the economic development aspect. Okay, not just economic development. So environment also has to be checked. Okay, whenever they do any projects, they have to make sure environment is not going to be damaged. Okay, is that clear? At the same time, so there should be people's participation, people should be getting benefit. Okay, they should be happy with it as well. Okay, environment also should not be damaged. So these things, all things were there as a conclusion. So to achieve this development, like Agenda 21 in Rio Declaration were adopted. So in Agenda 21, you can see this quote over here: think globally, act locally. Okay, what does this mean? Think globally, act locally. I'm discussing only about the easy things, and that's for our level. Okay?
Sir, is it like that Mahatma Gandhi saying high thinking, simple living or something?
Yeah, it sounds same rhyming, right? When you make the slogan. It sounds, but the meaning is different. For you, it sounds like that. Okay. Yes, think globally means you have to think from global perspective. You have to think about the whole world, okay? Not just one country or not just one place. Okay. You have to think about the whole world and then act locally from your place. Okay. If you're talking about climate change, you're thinking about the whole world globally. What is the impact, right? But then you have to start acting locally from your place. Maybe reduce and reuse of the plastics. Maybe just one of the ways, so that marine life is also not impacted, and the heat, greenhouse gases are also not produced, mainly greenhouse gases. So you have to start acting locally. So these things, we can go more into detail later on, but so this is what it's trying to say. Okay? Think globally, act locally. And next thing, like there are other conference, okay, Monterey Conference in Finance for Development, Doha Ministerial Conference, which divided the world, a comprehensive vision for future of humanity, so that they would be thinking about the humanity itself, so that because that is itself a sustainable development. And there was a World Summit on Sustainable Development at Johannesburg, South Africa, from 2nd to 4th September 2002 for sustainable development. So finally, we came with the same definition. That's what is the conclusion. Okay, what is sustainable development? To meet the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generation. Without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So that we don't use all the fossil fuels or everything, we use it, and in the future they don't get any opportunities to use them. Okay, so we have to try to make a balance of that. So we are preserving them also. So that it takes so much time for it to recharge. Okay, so many things. So like peaceful, okay, harmonious. That's what Sanvi told, right? So in case of sustainable development, it is more or less harmonious integration of sound and viable economy, that the economy is also sound and viable. At the same time, the government, responsible governance has to be there. Social factors like social cohesion, so that there's a good connection in the society, ecological integrity, environmental environment should be also like good, right? Environment should be conserved. So these things make sure that things are life sustaining. So that's what is sustainable. Life sustaining means it's continuing for many years. Whatever project you do, sustainable development, right? Sustainable livelihood project or anything, that means it has to be sustaining. Sustainable education or whatever, it means it has to be continuing. Okay. So in case of sustainable development, economic development has to be there. It has to increase the economic growth and social economic growth. Environment has to be conserved, that is environmental protection. Social reform means in a positive way. Okay, social changes, positive changes, that is itself development. Social, like people should be feeling better. They should be happy. There should be better changes, and finally, people's empowerment, bottom-up approach. That's what we told. Bottom-up approach is itself trying to say people are empowered. Okay, they are given empowered, like what they have been given in power. That means sustainable development. So all these things only combine together to make sustainable development. So only economic development is not sustainable development. Is that clear? So if you see the Venn diagram of 3 circles, so exactly the intersection at the middle that you'll see is only the sustainable development. Okay, that there is economic development, there is environment protection, plus there is social reform and people's empowerment in another place. So you can keep this social reform and people's empowerment also in one place at times and make that Venn diagram having 3 circles. Did you understand what do I mean when I'm saying Venn diagram with 3 circles? I think you have already studied sets with 3 circles. Yes. A union, B union, C, that is union. But A intersection, B intersection, C. Did you understand that? So that is exactly sustainable development in case of economic, environment, and social. So here you can see people, development, people, they are all vice versa. People and development, development and environment, environment and people, they're all connected to each other. One of the ways to see the connection and only work. Okay, we have to make connection. We have to often make connection to different aspects and understand them. So these are the various dimensions or elements of sustainable development. You can just know it might not be so important to go in detail, but it might be again important for you again back in grade 10 also to some extent. Okay, so these are the various elements that you need in sustainable development. That is, one is from political dimension, another is from economic dimension, another is from institutional dimension, technological dimension, socio-cultural dimension, ecological dimension. So you can see out of this social dimension, economic dimension, natural dimension, political dimensions, you can see them more in detail. So in case of economic dimension, we already talked that it should be maintaining a sustainable population, maintaining productivity and profitability of environment and natural resources. Means economic development has to be there, but there has to be a balance, okay, and there has to be profit in case of environment and natural resources as well. They are not over exploited. And in case of ecological, that's environment also. So environmental management is also, they also should be done well so that the natural resources are also conserved at the same time. So technologically, you don't need to go in so much detail, but it's just trying to say proper management of waste and residuals. Okay, waste management in case of solid waste management, liquid waste management, gaseous waste management, different things are there, which needs to be also managed so that environment-friendly technologies are adopted for that. So now next one, in case of political, people are empowered, there's peace and order. And another social aspect that it's trying to promote resource, promote environmental awareness, okay, with environment ethics and environment management as well. So these are the things that comes under sustainable development. And these are the, all of you go to your book, page number 87. Objectives of sustainable development. So these are itself the objectives. Is that clear? Under that parameters, we are trying to talk about objectives, what we just discussed. They all come under objectives of sustainable development. Please go to page 87, objectives of sustainable development. Is that clear? So we just discussed the same thing, but it was little different only. The same thing comes. So where like poverty alleviation is also done, right? Environment is also conserved, resources are used properly, social justice is there, human development is there, progress is there. So different aspects has to be seen, not just one factor of economic development. So Philippine Agenda 21, you can see this, how it has been coming all the way from 1971 to 1996, okay, with different limits to growth as like this publication, research, right? UN Conference on Human Settlements and Environment, World Commission on Environment and Development, Our Common Future. That's what we discussed in more detail, and this is one very important thing for us to know at our level. Is that clear? Rather than others. Others are also there, but this is the main thing that is for our level. to understand. Philippine Strategies on Sustainable Development, UN Conference on Environment and Development, Philippine Agenda 21 in 1996, okay, in which they talked about sustainable development itself and try to identify who are the people needed to do sustainable development. So they identify three key actors who are responsible and who will be able to make sustainable development, and they are government, civil society, and business. Whatever plan you are trying to make, let's say you're trying to do the impact on environment, then you always need the government to make the policy. Until and unless the government doesn't make policy and law, it's very difficult. Just because of awareness, things might not happen. Okay, and civil society also has to be responsible. The people has to be there. How many people are you going to make impact on? How many youths, right? So that they start working out accordingly for that project, and there's an impact as an outcome. And same with business also is another, like you have green businesses or to anything, right? Like green entrepreneurs to anything that works on that sector, so they can also bring sustainable development. So that's how they are connected to each other, and they're connected also. You have to always see the connection. Like sustainable development is connected with government, is connected. Sustainable development is with business also, so civil society also, and business is connected with civil society. So that they have connection with each other as well, and then only we can have sustainable development. Okay. Now, as a final conclusion, so like we talked at the first also, can you add few more points on how to do sustainable development now? So that is the conclusion. Add some more things than what we discussed at first. How to make sustainable development, how to have sustainable development. Yes. Can you add anything more than what we discussed? Okay, let's just summarize them. Itself, like talking about environment is itself planting trees, forest, right? Which we have already discussed also. And so we have more, so we encourage more small and local technological development programs. Like we have more renewable sources of energy being used, right? More effective measures of waste management in case of solid waste management, gaseous waste, liquid waste, different types of waste should be also managed effectively. Like what is the best way to management of them, and make sure the people are not overutilizing from quarries like stone factory or pebbles or sand from rivers that also affect the environment. And similarly, balance in population growth, because overgrowth means more needs and more resources are needed. And so people encourage organic farming as well. So you can see these are a few of the ways you can do sustainable development. Okay, is that clear? I had to go by a little extra 4 minutes because like I itself had to start a little late. I really don't want to take that so much time. Okay, thank you so much. If you have any question, you can ask, but I will not run it off myself. Okay.
No questions, sir.
Okay, so I'll give you question answers, then you can do it and you can ask, okay, after that also, if you have any problem. So you can see our monthly look ahead and see the tentative plan, okay? Although I'm trying to get 100% according to that, but sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes whatever we plan, it doesn't go exactly because sometimes class start little late or sometimes there's a technical problem, okay? If you have anything, you can ask. If not, you can start leaving. But the question answers will be given there itself in your assignment. So are you clear about sustainable development?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The course is little vast than others subject like English or social studies than what is in the content, okay? We try to summarize, but sometimes the things are more into detail.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Bye bye.